Hello and welcome back to Green Money Momentum, where we talk about market movements, making money, and money momentum. I'm your host, Trevor, and we are here for yet another daily talk of stock. And today it is Monday, May 19th. And so the markets are back open for trading for the week. And today's markets were pretty flat. So when we just look at the heat map and look at some of the major players here, we could see that Meta didn't move at all. Google didn't even move 1%. Nvidia didn't barely move at all. Microsoft just 1%, and a lot of plays here today just had a push forward similar to the major indexes. So here on screen on the left, I have the SPY, and then on the right, I have the triple Qs, and we could see that both indexes really didn't move for the day. But I consider this to actually be a positive because when we zoom out and look at the long-term chart building in both the major indexes and in a lot of the markets, well, things have been getting a bit overbought lately. So when we just look at the SPY and on the triple Qs, we know that as of recently, there has been a big swift recovery in both. And now we are looking a bit overbought on the RSI, on both of the major indexes. And we're also looking overbought on the MACD as well. But with today's board, I consider be very positive, as over the weekend, actually right at the end of market close on Friday, there was a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt because Moody's downgraded the United States rating for credit from AAA down to AA1. And so the US took a credit hit, and this is the first time ever that Moody's has downgraded the United States. And so many had a lot of concern this weekend, especially because of the overall bullish trend that we have been seeing in the markets that has been surrounded by a lot of positivity. And so this was one of the first negative news articles that we have gotten in a while. And we could see in general today that the markets just shook that off. So that is a positive. And macroeconomics didn't really change today. So there wasn't really much news, but we did get this positive Truth Social post from the president. And so Trump said that he just completed a 2-hour call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. He believes it went very well. Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations towards a ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the war. If this happened, this would be absolutely huge because when we just look at the timeline, we know that in 2022, there was a decent bleed happening in the markets, and the fear, uncertainty, and doubt back then was a lot from this right here between the Russia and Ukraine war. And so if this does start to come to an end, this would be very positive for both these countries and then also just the world in general. In general, I am a peacemaker. I don't want to see war. I don't want to see any citizens getting hurt. And so if this war ends, I would consider that to be a positive. We know if the market starts pushing up, a lot of these smaller market cap stocks with intrinsic value will have great pumps as well. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about here today. Some small market cap stocks and one that's a little bit bigger, but some stocks that I see having a lot of potential in the markets and that we have been covering as of late. So those stocks are going to be BigBear.ai, D-Wave Quantum, and we're also going to visit SoundHound AI. And last, we're going to finish with the stock DJT. So we're going to start out here by talking about the Big Bear. And so BigBear.ai today, another stock that just kind of had a push forward. As one of my friends said, it was kind of a yo-yo today. So it was just boom, 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 up and down. The stock today moved by just 5 cents, jumped up 8%. But as you can see here on screen, what I have here is this major level of support, major level of resistance in the Big Bear, and that sits at right around $3.75. So when we zoom out and look at the trend that has been building in the Big Bear, we recently got up to around $4.30 when we were rejected around the $4.50 mark. So we did get rejected at that major resistance level, and we have trailed back down right under this 375. And so right now, the Big Bear is having a battle trying to break past that 375 mark. And you can see these drawings I have from my last video. I was saying how I was expecting Big Bear to drop a bit, but that we would bounce off this major level of rising support in the Big Bear. And so we didn't quite tap off of it, but we got close. And what we're hoping for in the Big Bear is we want to see ourselves hit that resistance level of 375. And so in general, Big Bear is looking strong, and that is despite all the fear, uncertainty, and doubt around the Big Bear. And so with Big Bear, Anytime you type in this company, I'm sure you've heard me talk about it, other YouTubers talk about it. It's the big news around the Big Bear, and that is all the lawsuits with Big Bear. So on this search here on Google, I typed in for just the past 24 hours, Big Bear AI stock, and it's lawsuit, 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 lawsuit. So the first 4 articles here are all about lawsuits. We get one about some analysis and advice, and it goes right back to the class action lawsuits. And so a lot of lawsuits building up against the Big Bear, and this is because they had to refile on their K-12 filing. What I encourage investors to think about is that many times in the markets, we will see plays go under big lawsuits, and a lot of the times they are also in correlation with the shorts. And so a lot of the times, if a play is heavily shorted, you will see some lawsuits build up against the company, even if it isn't for necessarily the best reasons. And so we've seen lawsuits in other companies and they just get dropped. But in general, we know with society, the way it should work is that you are innocent until proven guilty. But many of the times, as soon as you are accused, it feels more like you're guilty until proven innocent. And so in general, all these different shorts and all these different lawsuits have been hurting the price in Big Bear AI. And right now we do sit with a significantly high short interest in the Big Bear, a short interest of 21%. So the bears are definitely built up in the Big Bear, but myself, I stay a bull on the Big Bear, and it's for reasons like this. When we look at the quarters that Big Bear has produced when it comes to revenue, we could see that this company is constantly hitting quarterlies of up to 40 million. And so this company earns a lot of big money, and they will continue to earn big money. And I believe that their quarterlies will only get better, as we've seen in the recent term. So within just the last year, this company has been picking up a lot of big government contracts that haven't yet started paying out. So we will start seeing those payments in future quarterlies when it comes to Big Bear. But in general, this company does have a lot of debt, and that is a lot of what this lawsuit behind the Big Bear is for. So they had to refile their K-12, which is looking at the convertible note debt in the Big Bear. If you don't know what that is, basically that is just debt issued to investors. So an investor will put money towards this company, and they don't get it quite like shares like we do now. They get it with a future promise. So a lot of these convertible notes were set to be due on later dates. So in 2027, 2029 in the future. And so essentially these investors that are investing into these convertible notes with Big Bear, they are bullish over the long term. They believe in the strength of the company over the long term. But Big Bear just had to relook at some of those convertible note debt and everything like that. And so it did cause a lot of panic of some possible dilution, but we have seen that not happen yet. And then also Big Bear does have a lot of big investors within the company as well. So we see some massive institutional investors here. We have BlackRock, we have Vanguard, and they hold some pretty big positions. So BlackRock right here holds up to 8 million shares. So a decently wealthy position in the Big Bear. And so there's a lot of institutional investors believing in the Big Bear. A lot of the fear about Big Bear diluting hasn't happened yet, and the big date that we need to look for when coming up for the Big Bear is going to be on June 2nd. So next month there is going to be the annual meeting of the stockholders, and what I'm hoping for in this event is that we get some news, we get some data pieced up for the recent fear, uncertainty, and doubt that we have gotten. And I believe that if Big Bear does come out with some positive news here, and they do address all these lawsuits and that everything that has been going on, we could see that Big Bear may possibly have a big rise here. Because again, with Big Bear, we're not just looking at it for the price action at $3.70. That is a great price, especially if you're looking to seriously multiply your money. But we're also looking at the intrinsic value behind this stock. Again, this company is earning big quarterlies, so 40 million in the revenue. And in general, this company doesn't have the highest market cap. So they do have some big investors, and there's a lot of us talking about this on YouTube, but they still have a relatively small market cap at just $1 billion. And so being a lower market cap stock, this company could really run in volume and in price action when we do start to see a big pop. With this company, if you were invested back in February, you know exactly what I mean. when a lot of the big news did start coming out initially before macroeconomic trends got worse. And then again, these lawsuits, Big Bear skyrocketed up to $10 plus in just a matter of a couple days. And so with Big Bear, a lot of intrinsic value behind it, a big short interest. So a big short interest of 21%. Anytime you see short interest in the double digits, that is a ton. So a lot of short interest in Big Bear, some big institutional investors, and some big deals coming down the pipeline. I personally believe that the Big Bear is going to squeeze some of those shorts coming up. And now talking about plays that recently just squeezed, this is another favorite that we have been talking about on this channel. It is another AI play, but it is more related to quantum computing. And so it is my favorite quantum computing stock, and that is QBTS, D-Wave Quantum. And we see that we have recently had a massive skyrocket up in this stock. We were trading in the $6 range, and right now QBTS is at $13. And this is off what was a very predictable movement. And so as we've been talking about with QBTS, it has been riding alongside this rising level of support and on this rising level of resistance. And so right now, D-Wave Quantum is tapping on that rising level of resistance at some all-time highs here at 1322. And we may possibly see this stock break past this all-time high. So there is a chance that QBTS does continue to run, especially if we continue to see the macroeconomic trends in the market stay positive and the overall indexes push forward. So that is on a bullish note. On a bearish note, we may see a retraction in this stock. We know that the last two times we touched this rising level of resistance here, that we did have a cool down in QBTS. So that is a possibility. And me personally, as I've talked about many times, I actually sold about 90% of my portfolio on the rise here. So 90% of my portfolio, 90% of my position in D-Wave Quantum. And the reason why I did that is because I sold it right around here. I had a massive jump up. I had a bunch of contracts, bullish option contracts in QBTS, and I sold these for massive profit on the rise up. And so now as a trader, of course, I am personally hoping to see a cool off in D-Wave Quantum, and that is just because I took a lot of these profits. But I still do have a small position in D-Wave, and I am very bullish on D-Wave for the long term. But just in general, the way I made these profits was just following this trend here. And so I'm sticking to my strategy, even as hard as it could be, to watch the stock go past go up past the spot where I sold it, because I believe in the plan that I am implementing. And that is what we need to do as traders. We need to find a plan and stick to a plan. And so I personally do feel a little bit of fear of missing out from what is happening. But when I just look at the technical indicators, we are looking very overbought on the RSI. And then we are also looking a bit overbought on the MACD as well. And then again, when we just align it with the candlestick chart, we are also at the top level of resistance right there. And so in general, we may be seeing new highs from the markets. QBTS may be one of those companies that does see new highs, and we may start to see some serious price discovery from QBTS. But myself, I am staying patient and I am staying out of D-Wave Quantum for the most part. Like I say, I still have a little position, but I am staying out for the most part and waiting for a pullback, because just a thought in general with us traders, we have seen a big jump in the markets as of late. And so it has gotten very addicting seeing the gains in our portfolios. I know I can't be the only one that is a dopamine addict and looks at their Robinhood or their investing account multiple times a day to see the uptick, right? And that is because, again, the dopamine when we earn is so great. And so a thought for investors: just don't put yourself in a position of being over leveraged or over trading just to chase that dopamine high. And so as a trader, I'm staying disciplined. Again, it's hard to watch QBTS run up, but I don't want to just FOMO buy at the top because I am feeling dopamine withdrawals. Again, I could be totally wrong about the pullback coming up. I encourage you to do exactly what you feel with QBTS. So if you joined here when I initially talked about the squeeze coming up and you still think there is more momentum to go, well, it is possible. But again, as a trader, I'm just looking at the the RSI, the MACD. I think we are a bit overvalued in those spots. And so I think we are a bit overvalued on QBTS. I'm still very bullish on quantum over the long term, and possibly we may see new highs. But a stock that I have been eyeing a lot more as of recently has been SoundHound AI, because with this stock, we are seeing the opposite of all-time highs. We've actually retracted quite a bit from the all-time high in SoundHound. In December, we were around $24, but then macroeconomic trends in the market got pretty bad. There was a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in this stock, and we have seen the trail off. But as of recent weeks, just like a lot of the market, we have started to see SoundHound build in an upwards bullish trend. And so just like with BigBear.ai and QBTS, these are the same lines I had drawn out in my last video. And so with SoundHound, we could see that we were rejected by this major level of resistance right around the $12 range, but we have returned back to this rising level of support in SoundHound. And so overall, we have been rising on this level of support, but myself, I am still waiting to add to my position in SoundHound right now at $10.27. This stock not quite as overvalued on the RSI, right at about 53, right tapping on this level of support, but I still think that we may see another red day in the markets, and I am personally just waiting for another red day. SoundHound was decently red today, down around 8%, but I am still waiting for just a little bit better of an opportunity to pick up my SoundHound, because as many of you know, the way I play the markets for the most part, especially with these smaller market cap stocks, is I am invested in options contracts. And like I was saying with QBTS about being a disciplined trader, I am staying disciplined on SoundHound as well, because I still think there is room for those options contract prices to come down a bit. So I'm staying disciplined and I am sticking to my trading strategy. I'm going to wait to see if we see a little bit more of a drop off in SoundHound to invest some more. But in general, if you have a long-term vision on SoundHound, if you believe in this company over the long term, this is a great spot to buy, as we are down more than 50% from the highs in SoundHound. And just like a lot of stocks are getting overbought in the markets, well, when it comes to SoundHound, we still have a little bit of run to there, a little bit of more run to go to the top. And if you don't know what SoundHound is, well, I want to pull up this article here because I think that this is pretty big for SoundHound. So SoundHound is a company that works with sound technology. And so like we see here from the Motley Fool, I just want to bring up this thought slash theory, something that we could think about here in the future. And so SoundHound uses their AI voice technology. They work with a lot of different automotive companies and then also restaurants as well. And so maybe this year they may pick up this big restaurant, and that is McDonald's, one of the biggest players in the fast food industry, because last year the fast food chain McDonald's discontinued its use of IBM's automated order taking tech, mostly because it never worked quite as well as hoped. And so McDonald's right now could be in the future looking at using the Houndify, SoundHound's voice technology platform, for their company. And so SoundHound looking like a major front runner possibly for when it comes to using their AI technology, their AI voice technology with McDonald's. Again, they're already working with a bunch of different corporations. And another reason why we are very bullish on SoundHound over the long term when we look at the financials in SoundHound. So funny enough, we have Big Bear here on screen. Big Bear still does hold some debt. There is some concerns about that. But SoundHound, that company, has actually paid off all of their debt while their earnings continue to increase quarter after quarter. And the most positive thing about these earnings that you see here on screen, not only have they increased quarter after quarter, but so has their customer base. And so SoundHound has greatly diversified their customer base. They used to have one customer that accounted for more than, I think, 90% of their revenue. Now, one customer now doesn't account for more than 10%. So a massive leap when it comes to their customers that they have with this company. And so for SoundHound, again, I'm waiting for a little bit more of a pullback, but this play is becoming more and more shiny to me. Every day, SoundHound is looking more and more appetizing, and ideally, I am looking to add to SoundHound right when it gets to under $10. And so now the last stock that we're going to be talking about here on this play, a favorite on this channel, that is the stock DJT. And so as we have been talking about a lot with this channel, currently where we're sitting at here is this range right here between $21 to $27. And we say that because when we look at the long-term technical analysis, when we look at the long-term chart built within DJT, multiple times it has tapped in this range right here. So between $21 to $27. And overall, this sits as a major support with DJT. So myself, I do play with a lot of options contracts. I have played with DJT with many options contracts, but overall, this stock I hold more with shares for the long term, because with DJT, there's a lot of intrinsic value growing within this company, and there's a lot of opportunity for this stock to seriously run up, because this stock up to this point has been halted and manipulated a lot. So where you see this big red down, this big green to red downtick, where the start of this negative momentum started, was right during the elections when this play started to get halted and manipulated. And so there's a lot of halting and manipulation that has gone on with this stock that has overall caused some downwards negative pressure in this stock. But what is positive is we are still right along this major support in DJT. So a lot of investors are holding strong at this level. And I think before we know it, we will see a massive rip in DJT at some time. Now, just a thought here on screen, you could see this triangle that I have built. This is just to show a descending triangle that is building within DJT. And so just on a technical analysis thought, like I say, this doesn't have to be 100%, but just a thought, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this stock when it does complete this triangle. A play that I had looked at back in the day, and this is before I even started my channel, but GME, there was a descending triangle built within this stock. And then right when we saw that descending triangle come to a completion is where we saw the biggest pop in this stock. So I had a little off there, but there was this descending triangle built. As soon as that descending triangle came to a finish is when we saw more of a pop in the stock. And so with DJT, even though we look at the intrinsic value behind this stock, many look at it as just a meme stock opportunity. And when we look at the other technical indicators here, we could see that we are right in the middle on the RSI and then also on the MACD as well. So still some room and opportunity for this stock to grow, especially because Truth Social is being used more and more. As we know, many individuals are now almost using Truth Social as their main trading indicator, because what Trump is saying on Truth Social has been pushing up the markets. So with important dates coming up for DJT, the next big date is going to be on May 30th. That is going to be 11 days from now, and they are going to be releasing their Q4 earnings for 2024. So their last earnings report for 2024, this will finish the year. But what is interesting is they have already released their Q1 earnings for 2025, and it didn't come in great. So their earnings for 2025 just at 821,000, and this is typical with this company. Despite having a big market cap, this company does have historically low revenues. And so we could see that only once here have they tapped up to a $1 million revenue. But what is positive about this is that DJT again is holding strong at the levels of between 21 to 27. So DJT investors already know this. And if the revenue for Q4 of 2024 comes in weak, if it is again right at $1 million or just under that, DJT investors already expect this. So it's not like having a bad earnings report is going to have this stock go off a cliff. If anything, this is a positive catalyst, because if DJT does come out with a really strong revenue in the quarter of 2024, we could see a pop within the stock. But personally, I am not betting on this, because again, their Q1 for 2025 has already been announced, and they were just at 821,000. But In general, this company is improving and strengthening their position. So in the early days, they were losing a lot more money. We could see that their earnings per share for Q1 of 2024 was at negative $3.61. So a lot of bleeding going on there. But for Q1 of 2025 at just negative 14 cents. And so when it comes to the growth and improvement in the company, we are seeing that within DJT. And we know that DJT is trying to push us more into the mass adoption into cryptocurrency. This is something that we have talked about a lot on this channel, about how DJT is doing big crypto investments with Charles Schwab, and then also their recent adventures with crypto.com. And so in general, we will start to see those revenues show up in future earnings reports with DJT, as well as all their advertisement revenue that they are earning on Truth Social. And like I say, a lot more users are starting to onboard onto Truth Social every single day just to catch what the president is saying. So we have all that in the pipeline. And then also, like we were talking about, this stock is heavily manipulated. Well, Trump media is urging the SEC to investigate the potential manipulation of this stock. So hopefully we will start to make some progress when it comes to the halting and manipulation and just the negative activities going on with DJT. But in general, I think, again, this stock is sitting at a major support level, and I think this is a great buying opportunity in DJT. Just with this stock, what I recommend, very different from some of the other stocks where they're moving so much each day. Again, this stock has been very halted and manipulated, so it has been decently frustrating for many of us DJT investors this last year. But my best suggestion is just to buy your DJT, hold it for the long term, and try not to look at your position if you can, because DJT is a very long-term play for me, and I am holding my shares over the next 4 years. And so with DJT, I do know there will come the day when the big pop does come. But up to that point, if you're just looking at the stock every day, it might get a little bit frustrating because it's going to continue to flatline until we see that big pop, most likely. But I would be curious to hear what everyone else thinks about these plays. Again, I am very bullish on all four. If I had all sounded bearish, it's not that I am bearish. It's just, again, the markets are getting to an overbought territory. So we may see a little bit of a retraction. And even if we don't, if the markets continue to soar up, I am very happy with my positions because I have been taking a lot of profit over the last weeks. And with everything I have talked about, again, it's not like I am bearish. I am just waiting for greater opportunities to buy when the value really meets the price. So when I see the price in these options contracts or in these shares come to a great value, that's when I'll personally be adding to these opportunities. But I would be curious to hear what everyone else has to say about all four of these plays. If you're bullish or bearish on the markets, if you think the rise up is just going to continue, or if you think something is going to happen in the near term to send the markets down. So I would be curious to hear everyone's opinion. So please drop a comment in the section below. Please leave a like and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I thank you all so much for being here. The internet is a big, vast place with millions of YouTubers and millions of different videos, but you decide to come here to my channel and spend time with me talking about stocks. So I appreciate you for that. And I mean it when I say every single view, comment, like, it means so much to me because simply right now I'm just doing this for passion. As you guys see, I don't have any trading programs, any discords, nothing for you guys to join or to try to get money from you. I'm simply just doing this for the passion and the community. And so again, thank you guys all so much, and I'll see you in the next video.